Monday morning. Hi, everybody. Here's your weather report. It is COLD, cold. Okay, I practiced my spelling today. I hope you do too. Let's check in and see about Alexander and Blossom if they're going to break into the Oddfellows Hall. But the notion of breaking and entering appealed to him. After much muttered backtalk, he took on the door of the hall with a tire iron. The sound of the padlock dropping on the step rang out, and everything's noisier at night. When you think you're alone and it's dark, everything's... As we felt our way up the stairs, Alexander remembered his manners, and he let me go first. It was dark as a pocket up there, but I was easy in my mind, thinking that we two were the only ones in the place. There was a small vestibule at the top. Professor Regis had not thought to remove the bulb from the socket there. When I turned the switch, the wedge of light fell across the seance room. All the chairs stood around empty like leggy spiders. Blech. Light struck the cabinet beyond the table. Something held me back then. I do not mean Alexander's cold hand plucking at my sleeve. On my own, I'd have retraced my steps, and I admit it. Some kind of a chill went over her. But I tiptoed across the room, shadowed by Alexander. When we stood before the cabinet, I could all but hear Professor Riggins' convincing voice calling for the spirit of Sybil. I tried to pull the doors open, but they were locked from inside. Running a hand over the smooth panels, I discovered a hairline break in the wood. I applied pressure, and a small drawer sprang open. The old wood popped, and Alexander jumped. "Looky here," I whispered. "This is where Professor dropped Miss Dabney's papa's watch." Then he jammed it shut right in front of the public, though nobody noticed. The little drawer would spring open and shut at a touch. Alexander liked to wear the gadget out, fooling with it. Oh, it's interesting. I crept around the cabinet to find there was no back on it. The bottom of the cabinet was heaped high with various items. The only light came from some gauzy stuff glowing with phosphorus paint. It looked like Sybil's costume. In this dull gleam, I made out sticks of incense and candle ends and a box of kitchen matches, which I reached for and cast more light on the subject. Alexander had come around to hover behind me. Just as my hand closed on the matchbox, a pile of glowing gauze came alive and twitched. A terrible voice whined, "Here! Take your irons off me, you nasty old Alexander's high, whistling shriek drowned out all other sounds. Fear riveted him to the floor. Otherwise, I'd have been left alone to face the talking gauze. The matchbox fell on my shoe, and the gauze thrashed around and rose up. I kept my wits about me, but just barely. Presently, little Sybil and me were eye to eye. There was blood in hers. It could only be Sybil, and she was earthly to a fault. I'd rousted her from a deep sleep, for she blinked. Her forehead glowed with a dab of phosphorus paint from her drapings. Her hair was the color of old snow. She looked bruised in the blue light, except for a black, wet mouth. As she blinked slack-jawed at me, I saw she was snaggle-toothed. There was something of an old woman about her, but she was so scrawny and shapeless she couldn't have been older than 12. Snaggletooth, she doesn't have good food to eat, no dentistry, that sort of thing. "Ooh, might you be when you're at home?" she inquired in her hollow voice, but it was too late to scare me, and she knew it. Alexander's hushed voice came from over my shoulder. "Oh, Lord in heaven, I will be a good boy, if only." "I'm Blossom Culp," I said, "and this hero behind me is Alexander Armsworth. We represent the law in Bluff City." Swivel swept down from the matchbox and struck a light to the candle nub. "Come off it," she remarked in her odd accent. The letter H seemed to be missing from her vocabulary. "I've seen the law in my time, and you don't look nothing like it." "But that as it may," I replied, "it's in your best interest to cooperate. If word gets out that you're human, the law won't be far behind. They'll have you in school before you know it." Sybil and me were nose to nose with only the candle flame between us. School, she said, scandalized. I never set foot in a school, and you won't get me in there. Besides, I'm 16. You're 11. 15, she said, nearly. 12. Mind your own business, she said. And what if I was to say you'd arrested your Professor Riggins? Found a certain gold watch on him and locked him up, I inquired. I'd call you a liar, spat Sybil, because the old I gotta be going now, Alexandra said. Never was arrested in this life, finished Sybil, with that ornery, I can't read without the H, tongue. He can talk himself out of any tight place. Why, they found a pearl necklace, a silver cigar box, and $42 in cash in them Vendela, and we walked away from them. Nobody'll testify against him in court. And just where do you come into all this, I asked, seeing she was talkative. I don't, she said. I sleep in this cabinet, and the professor and I, we never ride in the same coach in the railway. Nobody can finger me, for I'm the spirit Sybil. Nobody's laid a hand on me, and me during a seance. I'm that quick. Otherwise, I'm nowhere to be seen. We travel at night. I ain't seen daylight in 2 years. Poor little thing. There you look it, I remarked. You're no American Beauty Rose yourself, Sybil commented. There's nothing like swapping insults to clear the air. I couldn't approve of her shady calling, but she had spunk, and I did like that. Well, look here, Sybil, this is no life for a young kid such as yourself. You're in no better situation than a mole. Sybil blinked at her. In a way, she was a mortal version of Minerva. Nobody ever had occasion to give her a good talking to. Just how do you live when all this comes to light? It'll go better for you if you look like an innocent party. Anyhow, not quite the crook that you are. I thought she'd sulk, but she said, crikey, if you aren't the worst nosy Parker I ever come up against. All right, if you must know, you must. Welcome to my happy home. She managed to step out of all the gauzy drapings and planted a bare foot on the floor. Alexander retreated a couple of steps, but he'd quit praying and was listening. Sybil fixed the candle in a handy bracket on the cabinet wall. Ere I sleep, she said, pointing to a pile of rags on the cabinet floor. I wouldn't put a dog down on it, and just there's my supper. She pointed out an empty can of pork and beans lodged in the corner. That's the you-know-what. She waved a hand at a china chamber pot. That's the bathroom. It looked to me like she slept with her head in the beans and her feet in the chamber pot. It was close quarters in that cabinet, anything but clean. There was a water jug, but no soap. She warmed to the task of showing us around her narrow world. There was a flue in the top where the incense smoke rose up, peepholes on various levels in the front doors. Sybil could scan the crowd out front well before she made her entrance. The whole cabinet was as busy as a Chinese puzzle and just as clever. The entire contraption came apart for shipping. There were other drawers and loose panels fitted in the inside, but Sybil passed over those. Only persuasion made her admit that the secret drawer on the front was where the professor had stashed items lifted from the clients. She showed us how she could gather this swag from the inside, and what happened to the loot then she didn't say. Poor little thing lives in that amazing trap that she's in. I am headed over to Lowe's to get some house paint. My good friends at Jerome Middle School gave me a gift card, and I'm going to start a few little house touch-ups and repairs. You see the mark up on the ceiling? My ceilings need fixed and done. I wish Jana McGill was here to help me because she's a home repair person. Oh, I love you very much. I'm very proud of you, and I'm glad that you get to be at school. Be sure you study as much as you can and listen. If you can listen, that will help a lot. Be good. Be brave. Stand tall, and you stand for what is right, won't you? All right. I love you. See you later. Bye.